lived in Bangkok from 1995 to 2019 and currently resides in Baroda, India. She is the co-organizer of Womanifesto and therefore had been working with multidisciplinary collaborations with her work encompassing various approaches and genres, as well as bringing people and things together. Although Womanifesto is based in Thailand, her work has taken her everywhere, where Varsha has also exhibited internationally, including at Chulalongkorn Art Center in Bangkok, WTF Gallery in Bangkok as well, Devi Art Foundation in New Delhi, Tony Pop in Basel, National Review of Life Arts in Glasgow, UK, Perth, and Australia, Tate Modern in London, HKW in Berlin, Fondazione Zandretto in Turin, Art in General in New York, and Experimenta Media Arts in Melbourne. In 2020, as the pandemic situation impacted worldwide, she helped realize and become one of the lead organizers of the Womanifesto 2020 Gatherings project. This, along with some of the archive material of Womanifesto, is currently part of the Guangzhou Terrarium and exhibited at Guangzhou Art Museum in China in an art exhibition created by Varsha Nair entitled Repetition is a Gesture of Deep Listening. In addition, Varsha has published her writings in various art journals, such as Paradoxa, Southeast of Now, Directions in Contemporary and Modern Art in Asia, Art Asia-Pacific, and Ctrl+P Journal of Contemporary Art, of which she is Editorial Board member. She currently also works as a guest lecturer at Hochschule Lucerne, Lucerne University of Applied Science and Arts. With this, I am honored and excited to present to you the co-organizer of Womanifesto and our speaker for this activity, Varsha Nair. Let us give her a virtual clap.
Thank you, Sharina, and hello, everyone. Thank you for being here. It was so strange. I didn't think you were talking about me. I was like, oh, who is she talking about? And talking about gatherings, this certainly is, in my mind, a very important gathering. When May asked me if I would give a talk for the students, I immediately said yes, because I find it personally very enriching to be able to converse, especially in this kind of an environment. And also how important it is to sort of pass on what we've done to the younger generation, to students who would be interested in researching further into not just art, but what women artists have been doing in the region and of course internationally. You kind of have given a very good background of Womanifesto, and I think that I presume that most of the people attending today have kind of come across it and have looked into it, so would kind of have an idea of what Womanifesto is. Yes, we started in 1997, and it came out of a very important exhibition titled Tritisection. If you can go to that first slide, yeah. Where a group of Thai women had gathered in an exhibition, and they were artists and poets and writers. And that's where they came up with this idea of setting up Womanifesto as a project that could be done biannually, and opening it up internationally to invite women who basically they had met. So it kind of came out of that whole network of friendship. I just want to start off by saying that the first two exhibitions were kind of more events were more exhibition based. So 1997, it opened on Women's Day, and there was a kind of a conversation which was, why should we just always have it on Women's Day? Isn't every day a Women's Day? Yes. And so that was very much a kind of thinking behind how we were thinking as women and artists, and how we acknowledged that there was Women's Day, but we were also kind of bringing into play the fact that every day is Women's Day. And subsequently, all the events that took place, we didn't really set it that it would open exactly on Women's Day. So just a little aside. So on hindsight, after a lot of kind of things that have been happening in the last so many years, and certainly the last few months where we've had quite an intense time working all online, whether it's been on the archive or for this exhibition that is still on at Guangzhou Academy of Art. A thing that came into my mind was how at some point along the line, we started to place Womanifesto in a kind of a liminal space. Anyways, it is a liminal space, I think, that we are all in currently, a space of flux, a space of not knowing really what's to come, not being able to plan as we used to, and how are we going to still go about doing what we do or what we want to do. So can we go to the next slide, please? I'll take you through the points about Womanifesto, and then at the end, I will talk a bit more about the Guangzhou exhibition as well as what is happening now. So one of the things that started to happen very much was we realized that the time that we spent outside the exhibition at the first two events was actually much more significant. And it was the hospitality, the friendship, the conviviality, and so many conversations that took place when we were sort of hanging out. And we realized that this kind of autonomy we had as self-organizing artists was actually very, very important. And we could reimagine ways of doing. We could challenge the usual spaces and ways of making art. And we could bring in other people into conversation. We could go into communities. We could follow our ideas, anything that we found was exciting and what we wanted to address as women. It was also a time where you got to know each other very well. You got to know each other's realities. And the exhibition happened, and there was the opening happens, and all of that happens. But that actually doesn't really tell you or viewers about what else has gone into it. And so how do you make this process and our conversations visible? And in a way, this what I think of as invisible labor in a way, not in a negative sense, also in a positive sense, but labor nonetheless, visible. Next slide. So these were the sort of hanging out sessions that I mentioned, and whether it was to cook together, eat together, tell each other about other works we were developing. And this kind of became something that we, thought to take further as well, which we started to do subsequently in the way we started to think about projects. The other thing that was really, really significant was how this started to kind of form this expanding network where there was this reciprocity where, you know, if somebody else was organizing something or part of something, they started to invite some of the people they'd met at Womanifesto. So Amanda Heng organized Women About Women at Singapore Art Museum, for instance. Tari Ito was part of this network called WAN, Women Art Network in Japan, in Tokyo, and she organized the exhibition in Tokyo. And this is where some of the people from Womanifesto were invited, and then that gave an opportunity to meet some more people. And that's how we kind of started to connect in a sort of a wider network. Next, please. So after the second event in 1999, which was in a public park, and it got quite large, there was a sort of a sense of exhaustion and kind of a questioning as well about, do we really want to go ahead? But then we realized that what was actually very interesting was, or this hanging time was what was really exciting, and the exchanges we had out of the whole exhibition network setup was very, very potent. And so we should start to think about doing a project that would literally be kind of going on an extended picnic, which led to the planning of the 2001 project, where we literally decided, the first idea was we would just get onto the train and get somewhere, and we would engage with an artisan community, be out there in the rural area. And there was kind of, it was left very open as to what we would do. And eventually we based ourselves on this farm in northeastern part of Thailand. The other thing I will talk about that a bit later. The other thing which became really, really important was that because there was this tendency of being dismissed as, you know, maybe women being just dabblers, you know, and not really being kind of brought into the conversations that were probably happening at that point in the art world, certainly locally. It was really important for us to write about ourselves, you know, to talk about a Womanifesto and give out this information, to sort of draw focus to what we did at any opportunity that was given. So this was something that we started to do as well, that we made that decision that we had to do the writing and the talking and the telling of what we were involved with. Next. So this was yet another exhibition that led to meeting more people. I had met May before this, but I think we might have met again here at Text and Subtext, May. And it became a really interesting gathering, actually, because suddenly there was a chance to meet so many more. You know, there was a chance to meet Yinshu Chen, for instance, from China, and also get to know this big group of women artists who were active in Asia, or mostly Southeast Asia. You know, I met Wu Mali from Taiwan, and then was involved in some of the community-based projects that she ran in Taiwan, and that kind of also led to bringing back what, you know, learning from those projects and bringing it back to, say, think about how we could plan Womanifesto as well. Next. This was yet another significant symposium that took place in Croatia, organized by Sanja Ivekovic, who was part of the 1999 Womanifesto 2 project. That gave an opportunity to meet Katie Deepwell, for instance, from who's the editor of Paradoxa, and Hilary Robinson, another feminist art historian, and in conversation, talking with Katie, she said, "Oh, you were born in Africa, in Kampala," and I said, "Yes, I really want to connect with some artists from Africa," and she introduced me to Lillian Nabulime, a Ugandan artist who was then studying in the UK, and Lillian then led the connection with Lillian opened up a connection with artists in Africa. And I think at that point in time, for this post-creation project in 2003, I think at that point, there were very few people, very little interaction between artists from, say, Asia and Africa. And we sort of started to have those conversations. Next. So as I said, after 1999, it was really this thinking of going on projects as like being on different journeys, and how to gather, how to meet, so that we could, for a period of time, we could just be, we could cook, eat, and live and reflect together. In this just letting ourselves be is to see what can emerge out of that process. Not to define any end role, not to actually organize a workshop or a residency as culminating in your own artwork, but more as a kind of a time to discover, to enter into conversations, and yes, to relax even, so this was this 2001 Womanifesto workshop on Bunbandan farm in northeastern part of Thailand, which was within this farming community set up on Bunbandan farm. And it was the local artisans and people surrounding from the villages who the participants were asked to sort of interact with. Along with that, there was a very important aspect of being out there, which was the same thing in 2008 for the residency program. And that was the workshops that we set up, particularly drawing in the schools from around the villages around the farm, as well as from the sort of university students, to bring them back into the farm and to sort of conduct these workshops. We never thought about planning any kind of an exhibition. It was decentralized also in that sense that not only were we away from Bangkok or, the main kind of places where you had the galleries and where art was being shown, but that there would be an open day as a sort of a celebration at the end culmination of both the workshop in 2001 and the residency, where everybody came back together for a day. The other really interesting thing was that how it became intergenerational, multi-generational, especially the 2008 workshop, where the youngest participant was in her 20s and the eldest, the Kunme, the mother of the farm, was in her early 70s. So this was also a conversation that we felt was important between the sort of generations of women and what was to be gained out of these conversations. Next. So yeah, just to give you a glimpse of the location, the top photo is the group from the 2001 workshop. You can, access all of this information on the website. I'm not going into more details, aware of the time we have. There's a creek on the farm, which was kind of our daily evening hanging out spot and have a little dip to cool off in that hot, humid weather. At the bottom is this installation of work by the youngest artist in the group at the residency, Naruman Tampruksa. These banners in the rice field, which were ripe for harvesting, and then the children who were visiting on the open day, the schools that were visiting on the open day, the same schools that we'd done workshops with. So just kind of to give you a feel of what all was happening besides the cooking and all of that, and the actual work that was done by the artists. Next. So I think there was this feeling that there was a sort of a momentum which led from thinking about from one project to how the next one what would come about. We never preset any kind of ideas that, oh, next we would do this. It was a natural progression in many ways, and we were just going with what was really also happening simultaneously in our lives, and also to see what was achievable, what was possible, because as artists and organizers, obviously there was also everything else, the homemaker as well, and all of that was woven into the way that we could still continue to set up meeting points. Next. So after the 2001 workshop, this idea of doing this publication titled Procreation, Post-Creation actually came out when Nitya, my co-organizing colleague, and she and I have been sort of the constants in organizing Womanifesto from the beginning, and with various people who could give time and were willing joining in. So Nitya was pregnant with her first child. She got married and she was pregnant with her first child. And hence there was this kind of moment where we said, well, how's it going to work out? You will probably be having your child right when we would kind of think about, if we were going biannually, which we were trying to, that we would be able to do this project. And then we came up with this idea that, well, it should be something one person can handle, and it can be a publication project. It just goes out as an open call via email, and we just gather what comes in, and we design a publication out of it, and we have an open day to launch the publication. So this is how Procreation, Post-Creation came about, and it went out as an open call. We didn't know how many people would respond, and it turned out a lot of people responded. And it was kind of, we were at this point where email was suddenly was the thing. We kind of lived through this moment of faxes back and forth, and then we'd arrived into the email world. And so it was interesting how, again, referencing to what strategies artists have used. So, mail art, for instance, and so this was kind of this idea of email art, bringing it together remotely, and opening it up to virtually anybody anywhere in the world. Next. At the same time, we were very fortunate to get funding for procreation post-creation from the Bangkok office of the Rockefeller Foundation, which existed there briefly. It's not there anymore. And they also said that they would help us set up a website. So it was just natural then to think of the next project being a web-based project, and to you know, use the internet and the ether world to base conversations in. And so No Man's Land came about. And for both these projects, for Procreation Post-Creation, Preenan Nana, a Thai artist, organizer, came in to sort of help plan and run the project. And for Procreation Post-Creation, it was Catherine Olston, an Australian artist who was based in Chiang Mai at that point, collaborated to bring the project together. So there was also always this working relationship as well, an open kind of working format as well, that whoever could give their time and was interested in the idea, or even came up with ideas, actually could join and to set up and to organize the project. Next. So after the No Man's Land project, we decided to set up this residency, and the idea was to continue with the residency program on the same farm where we had been in 2001. We wanted to sort of settle down, if you like, and we thought that the residency would be a good idea, that we would try to do it every year if we got the funding. But we were not successful after the first residency. Also, it was very important, it's a very important thing to note that this was a time in our lives where we ourselves saw a lot of changes happening, you know, related with families, related to our home situations, and all of that. As I said, you know, all of this was woven into how we plan projects, how we ran projects. So we decided that this would not be an end, this would be a break, and we would pick it up again when we felt that the time was right, and that we were not going to struggle on you know, on the home front, on the work front, on looking for funding. And when you have to let things be, you have to let things be. And so this decision was made that we'll pick it up whenever we feel the timing is right, which was exactly, let's say, 10 years ago, 10 years later, in 2018, when we were approached about the archive was something we were always aware of, and I was storing it. I made efforts to house it somewhere, didn't work out. But it was something that I was very aware that it needs to be looked into and to be arranged, and that was a lot of work to digitize a lot of analog materials, because, you know, from the very beginning we'd worked with a film, photographs, slides, you know, VHS tapes, all kinds of analog material. So in 2018, when we were asked about the archive, and at the same time we started to talk with Asiad Archive, or we were approached by Asiad Archive, we entered into conversation about starting to work on the archive and digitize it. At the same time, there was 2 symposia organized by a group of people from Sydney University and Southeast of Now Journal of Contemporary Art. One was in Bangkok and one was in Sydney, and both of those sort of placed the Womanifesto archive material as a kind of a center thing to base discussions around. So the archive, we got into exhibiting the archive, ordering it, that we could present the story of Womanifesto via the physical materials that were contained in the archive. And once it was digitized, the Crafting Communities exhibition was curated by John Tain for Asia Archive. And all of this, most of last year, beginning of last year, when the pandemic brought the lockdown into various places, was actually a really intense time of working online. And we connected from Sydney, where Paptawan is, to Hong Kong, Asia Archive, to Thailand, where Nitya is, to India, where I am, to Pakistan, Lahore, where Nilufar happened to be at that point, almost once or twice a week, to work through the materials on archive, to literally go through photographs, to help order it, and work, with the excellent input, of course, of Asia Archive, John Tay, and his assistants there, who meticulously were labeling, even as we were looking and discussing things online. So it was a really intense kind of working session, which, when it sort of came to an end late last year, having got really fed up of being on Zoom for endless numbers of hours, I must say I missed it terribly when it came to an end. So we also started planning the next project, and this was in 2019, where we thought that we would actually do a physical gathering again on Nitya's farm. Nitya moved to the farm that belongs to her father in Udon Thani, again, northeastern Thailand. And this is where we thought that we would actually do a workshop. A workshop would be for a publication that is planned to come out on Womanifesto. So it would be a workshop about the publication, and the workshop being included in the publication. It was this kind of an idea of a gathering. However, the pandemic put an end to that idea of meeting physically, and we had to kind of rethink our plans. So next. This is where the gatherings, online gatherings, this idea came up, and it came out of a conversation between Nitya and myself, where Nitya turned around and said, "But why don't we still do it? You do it in Baroda and I do it here in Thailand, and we see who else will join." And I said, yes, and Paptawan can perhaps do it in Sydney. And we tapped into some of the people who have been connected with, or have participated in Womanifesto, or connected with Womanifesto in some way or another. We asked if they would be interested in setting up local gathering points. And so it was very much about going local, going into your own vicinity, seeing what was possible, but being able to meet, even if the lockdown safety guidelines said that you could only meet one person at a time, or you could just meet across the street. But the idea was to meet face to face. And barring kind of very, very strict lockdowns, most of us were able to do that. Except for in London, it happened to be, because we set it up that we would do the gatherings in December of last year. And this was precisely the time when London went into complete lockdown. So they were mostly via Zoom. But otherwise, all the locations actually managed to get a group of their artists into whatever space they could safely and set up conversations and start to do work. And it was a kind of starting point with the idea again that each location could decide what they wanted to do, the idea for their own gathering. We were not saying that let's look at this, let's look at that. It came out of the group discussion amongst the people who were included, and each location came up with their own idea. So if you look at the blog, you will see how diverse all the expressions are. Nitya worked on a handmade book of all the people who are living with her on the farm. In Baroda, we did a gathering around bringing in texts that we were reading or we wanted to share. Berlin, it was about objects around your house, in your kitchens. In Berlin, in Sydney, it was about going out for walks, about going about collaborating with yet another person to bring them in to see what you found when you traveled out together from, whether it was a picnic or whether it was around the city. In Basel, they work on an annual calendar every year anyway, where they do a gathering around drawing for the calendar. So that's what it became. And in London, they seriously started to talk about breathing. And that's what their work was about. So at the time when this was happening, I was contacted by Biljana Čirić, who is the curator for, one of the curators for the Gwangju Triennial, with her idea of including Womanifesto along with an exhibition from Vietnam or a group from Vietnam called The Spirit of Friendship, in an exhibition called Repetition Towards Deep Listening. And the way the Gwangju exhibition was set up is that it would run in two phases. The first phase would happen now, and the second phase would culminate in a sort of a main exhibition when the full triennial opened at the end of this year. Nothing is fixed again. It very much depends on what is going to happen in the next few months. So next. So the conversation really for this exhibition was, but you know, we are still doing the gatherings, and you know, what can we offer for this exhibition? So it kind of very much resonated with also what we were doing for the Gatherings project, in that it really is the work in progress. So whatever was ready by end of December, early January this year, was what could be offered to go into the exhibition in Gwangju. These are just little glimpses of the various gatherings from the different locations. Next. So there was two parts of the exhibition. One was archival material, and what was really important for the curator was that everything that, you know, Zoom recordings, videos were kept to a minimum. Actual objects, actual tangible objects coming out of the gathering should be shared. And also where there were two parts. So there was archival material from Womanifesto, and she was not, it wasn't about presenting this kind of museum-like display of photographs and slides. And it was very much about being able to touch things. So she decided to include, we from the very first Womanifesto project, or the second one, we've always maintained photo albums, good old photo albums that you can look through. And so there are about 5 albums, and along with the catalogs, were placed in the archival part of Womanifesto, along with the video documentation, and 1 video work of Lavan Jira Suradesh, which is showing you various hands at work from the 2001 workshop. And the second part was what came out of the Gatherings project. Next. So just to give you a glimpse of how the Guangzhou exhibition looks, these were the corner where the Baroda material was placed. We have worked with a lot of text, so everything was translated in Chinese. All that you see, the blue bits of paper, people could take away. So they were the translated texts. There were folders kept at the entrance of the exhibition, and people actually could go in and pick up all the material that was printed on various different colors of paper to make up their own little folder or catalog to carry the exhibition away with them. Next. View of the London installation, the Berlin one in the middle, and from Sydney in the corner there. Next. And this was this central part with all the albums and the catalogs and the materials that people, it was set up as a kind of area where with table lamps, and you could sit and browse through all this material. Next. I think we might reach the end here. Yeah. So what's been really really amazing, and thinking back on how this whole thing, firstly it was really hectic to bring this together. It was also this thing of time zones connecting. The curator, Biljana, is in Melbourne. We are spread out from between Sydney to Berlin, London. The exhibition is happening in China, in Guangzhou. And the logistics of bringing all of this together were quite something. What was really interesting was how this kind of coming together online, which had immense frustrations, but how it actually also made so much possible. The fact that that exhibition got installed, and when we looked at it once it was installed, and we could only see it in photographs. We who are supposedly the main components of the exhibition, the artists, the works, the curator, we are unable to see it. But working with this incredibly efficient staff from the Guangzhou Art Museum and bringing it together, I mean, it's just been quite an amazing process. And the fact that it could be done, and now the feedback starts to come from people who've visited the exhibition, from other workshops that have been set up during the exhibition. So a lot of things actually did happen locally. A lot of visitors did see it. It started a lot of conversations as well. So this is kind of an experience, or one thing it makes me think of how we can find ways of going ahead. It's kind of, how do we marry up the analog and the digital together? These are some of the questions. We have to work doubly hard in many ways, I think. But we're blessed with this technology that can keep us connected, and I've certainly appreciated it a lot from early on this month, where things here have got very, very difficult to deal with. When I've been in connection with the artists from Womanifesto, as we are going ahead with this, what this means in terms of breaking that absolute sense of inner isolation that has sort of filtered down now over this period of time. What is coming out of, we are at this point now, I just want to mention one thing. In a way, we look at the earlier projects of Womanifesto as sort of phase one, chapter one of Womanifesto, and what has begun since COVID and the pandemic, and how we brought the whole gatherings project together as a sort of chapter two, because this situation we are in now is not going to go away. I think it's going to be with us in one form or another for a time to come. And how are we going to go ahead? So in this chapter two, this kind of decentralizing of Womanifesto, if you look at the earlier project, which were centralized in a sense, because there were two of us mainly who were organizing it, mainly coming out of Thailand, happening in Thailand. Now it's kind of like an idea comes out of anywhere. The project can be set up anywhere. It can be distributed. And so we set up what is called the digital courtyard. And it's called La Suemo, very enticingly, I hope it's enticing. It's the last Sunday each month, LASUEMO. And what we do on the last Sunday of each month is we invite some people in. We set up a 2-hour slot. We invite some people in who we ask them to invite some more people in. We try to keep the group small. People can come in and go out. We keep it quite informal. It's a meeting place. It's a place to talk about what we are doing. It's a meeting place for us artists, talk about what we're doing, what is happening in our lives, kind of build up a pool of topics we wish to talk about, and talk about this thing about the digital and the analog, and yes, how do we start to now bring things together? So I think I'll end there. I'm probably out of time.
Thank you so much, Varsha, for that great presentation. We've learned a lot, haven't we? Okay, in order to help us better digest that presentation, as well as to provide you time to send in your questions, we will be taking a 5-minute break. But before moving on to our question and answer portion, during this time, we'd like to hold a mini activity. So hold on. So we can better see what we learned about this session. In line with this, we are requesting you to go to this link on Slido that Sarah will be showing to us. Then please type in the keywords you feel best describe the entire lecture. Again, go to Slido, then please type in the keywords that you feel best describe the lecture. This can be an information, personal insight, thoughts, and so on. However, only be sure to send your questions to the appropriate channel, which Sarah has linked in the chat. Okay. So at this moment, we will go to Slido and have our 5-minute break.
Of course, others can stay on and chat, you know, for informal questions. For example, Christina has a question about the Guangzhou exhibition, or if it is traveling. Is it going to travel?
Oh, okay. No, there is no talk about traveling, and actually it wouldn't travel in the format it's in now anyway. In the phase 2 of the exhibition, it will be different because, as I said, the works are in progress, so more works will get added, and some part of what is already shown might be removed. It would sort of be, yeah, it will be different in phase 2 anyway. So it wouldn't travel. There is no talk about traveling it. But the Asia Archive exhibition, however, the Crafting Communities exhibition, has been discussed, and there are chances that we could it would travel to New Delhi and to Lahore. However, it really is very much dependent on how the whole pandemic situation is. But certainly towards the end of the year or so, we are hoping that it can be installed. Again, it would be different because we would then again work with different curators. So Asia Archive New Delhi has their own space, an office, and someone there who is interested in curating it. So they would then, you know, that's the beauty about the whole archive now, in that it's open to being looked at from different ways, from different eyes, minds, and different visions, and both the digital as well as the analog materials. So anybody wanting to curate an exhibition of the Womanifesto archive can actually work with ideas that they might have. So each time it looks different.
While we're still on a break, Sarah, I'd just like to say hi and acknowledge Paptawan, one of the artists who were in the Tradisection exhibition in Bangkok, 1995. Yani is here as well.
Hi,
Varsha. And Imelda Kahipe Andaya, who is also a founder of another women's collective, that's Kasibulan, perhaps later on, MEPS, as we call her, or Imelda. Maybe you'd like to also sort of link, with the conversation in terms of Kasibulan, which is another women's collective founded in the Philippines. I'd like to acknowledge my co-faculty, Eileen Legaspi Ramirez. Eileen, I think, has written about Womanifesto as well at some point. Trixie, Patricia Abrera, another co-faculty, and Luis Marcelino, who's one of the co-curators of Vargas Museum. Earlier, Christina was talking about the Vargas exhibition because the curator used to be a student at La Salle SIA, where Christina also did her master's, and wrote a thesis on women's collective, Womanifesto, and Kasibulan. Did I forget? The others are students, and my students in contemporary art. That's it. So guys, if you're already back, are there any questions already on the Slido? But of course, you could raise your hand, unmute, and just, ask away or comment away.
So, Prof. May, I would like to share the key highlights that our...
All right. Okay. Sige. Thank you.
Okay, so they said that the talk was very informative. So nice. Okay. It's exciting as well for our guests and our spectators. And also, they also mentioned about community, because it brings the people together. One of the key components of Womanifesto. Also, one said that it's significant because besides from putting people together, it gives you time to reflect together as a group. And it's also inspirational because it transcends good spirits to other people. It gives you a motivational factor. And it's also inspiring because it somehow boosts your energy to do something for your community. And of course, collaboration because it brings the women artists together. Okay, so these are key highlight words: informative, exciting, community, significant, inspirational, inspiring, and collaboration. What do you think about it, Varsha? What is your favorite word for the day? Okay. How about for May?
Yeah.
Your favorite word of the day?
Collaboration.
Collaboration. Okay, I think also I agree with that. Favorite word also is collaboration. Yes, Varsha, go ahead.
I think that was one thing I wanted to add, that perhaps that was something that I didn't stress on enough.
Yeah.
How this is only possible with collaboration being a huge part of it. This one-to-one connection, or this conversation, or this kind of coming together, and collaboration, the word, is really, and also it's really very much a selfless thing in a way, because it isn't about the way of thinking about what I am going to do and what work I am going to get out of it and what is my. It really is looking at the bigger picture and wanting to, wanting to be within the community. So community isn't just the community of people that we engage around, and but the artist as a community, the artists together as a community.
Okay, I would like to stress that collaboration is a selfless act. That's very beautiful, Varsha. Okay, I will always keep that in mind. Okay, I will stop screen sharing so we can move on to our question and answer portion. Okay, thank you so much everyone who participated in our mini activity. With this, I think we are finally ready to move on to our question and answer session. I will now be handing this program over to Sarah, who will be moderating this activity. Sarah, go ahead.
Okay, so hello again, everyone. As you can see here in our screen share, you can use the slido.com link and use our code 984694 and go to the Q&A session to ask your questions, or you can use the link which we'll be sending once again in our Zoom chat box. So we already have some questions here, and the first one that we'll be asking is from our classmate Andre Magpantay, and he asks, Ma'am Varsha, how does collective creativity play a role in Womanifesto? And how does it challenge the current canons and norms in art and the society?
Wow. That's very Andre, the question. Yeah, but it maybe probably has something to do with how contemporary art pushes the boundaries, and specifically in what Womanifesto is doing.
Like I said earlier, I think it opens up this space, right? And this kind of thinking, which very soon, even if it is individuals coming into this pool, if you like, but then suddenly the collectivity gives it a different kind of momentum and a different kind of a boost. And it takes off then into directions where you hadn't even thought about,
Yeah.
or you didn't think that you were going to head in. So I think it's a very, very powerful thing to have. And I talked about setting up in this kind of liminal space. And I worked on a project, a community-based project here, where I worked with a botanist and with a local children's community science center, people from there. We worked with village schools. We worked with forestry department. It was an art and ecology project. And it started off with this one sketchy idea, and it led to somewhere totally different and so much more enriching, including what came out from the children of the schools that we engaged, and the enthusiasm, that whole kind of collective, I don't know, churning, if you like. And I no longer know what it means to be an individual artist sitting in my studio. Of course, not that I don't do it. I do my own drawings, but I work a lot more in this kind of situation. I find this so much more enriching, so much more, I don't know, it opens up the world. I don't know if that answers your question.
Yeah, I guess the key word as well is liminality, where you're in a space that's well, probably away from the mainstream, or what we call traditional art history, the canons of art history. But at the same time, in that liminal space, you're able to do so many things without like a concept or hierarchy in mind. I like the term decentralizing. You've also used that term, Varsha. And this is the kind of character of the conversations that Womanifesto is doing, because there's no, it's not, doesn't mean that it's not organized, but it's organic. It's free flowing, and we're very open to those possibilities. And it's fluid, and it goes somewhere. One person would be in one event, and then she'll organize another event in her place or wherever she is. And the shifting of spaces from the public park to the farm to the virtual gatherings. So there's this very flexibility and fluidity that's happening when we're doing these conversations. It's not even curated in the strict sense, is it, Varsha?
No, it's not.
No.
No, it's not.
So it's not hierarchical. It's just like you're in a campsite talking.
Yeah.
And then suddenly, well, I have an idea. Let's do this.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah, and it's very much about, you talk about ideas, and somebody says, oh, I know this artist and she would be great. She would love it. And then, that's how the artist comes in. Very much a friend introduced friend, or, participants, people who've been in Womanifesto kind of bring in other people. So recently, for our digital courtyard, for instance, there's a feminist archive based in Hamburg called Bildwechsel, and one of the persons who is instrumental in taking care of that archive is joining us. The curator, Biljana Ciric, for instance, she would be somebody who would be really interested to join in as well. So it's not that we are cutting out at, just artists, but we bring in all various people who we think, or anyone can say, write to us and say, I would love to know more and what's happening. And certainly, some of you are going to be approached to come and join into our digital, the La Suemo, each month, So at some point, in some month, you would be asked to come in and have a chit chat, bring your, whatever time of the day it is, your lunch, coffee, tea, your dinner to the table in front of your screen, and yeah. set up. I just want to say one more thing about this liminal space, which is where liminality, that you are, it's kind of a space where, from which you can act upon, because nothing is decided. So it becomes a spot from where you can actually act upon. It's also a little bit of a scary space, because you don't know what's coming next. And like I said, it really applies to our current times as well. That are you going to just sit at home wringing your hands? Because it is kind of a bit scary when you think of the larger picture and what's going to come next, or we don't know. The not knowing is something which has a potential, is what I want to say. Yeah.
The not knowing and the not being able to control
Right.
so many things, no?
Right, which takes you right back to collaboration, right? Because you have to give up control to be able to really collaborate. You have to give up control of your own claim to things.
So Andre, I hope that answers your question. Rethinking the canons, not just rethinking the canons and definitions of art, but also rethinking curating and organizing. Okay. Yeah, all right. Andre says thank you.
Oh, that's good. Okay, so our next question is question for Varsha. Is it possible to elaborate further on what the intergenerational aspect of Womanifesto has brought to the collective work? I ask this too in regard to how different framings of feminism have surfaced over the years since Womanifesto took shape. So I will send the question as well in our chat for those who are happy.
Yeah, well, the different generations actually was particularly in terms of passing down or exchanging of both ways, was very interesting. We also had, along with Kudme, with her incredible knowledge of the flora and fauna on the farm, and her knowledge of dyeing techniques and using this natural material from the farm to come up with all these different colors. Where, she would dye the yarn, she would weave a cloth out of it. She even would made hand-sewn clothes, the full package. And so getting to know, and also literally a walk around the farm and getting to know everything that you could pick and eat from the farm, and learning from her about, all of these things, and bringing in the school children then into a workshop led by Preena and Nana, and at the 2001 Womanifesto workshop, where she literally asked the children, you take me around for a walk and you tell me about what's growing here and how I can use it. Can I eat it? Will it cure my stomachache? Will it help my headache? Will it, what is it good for? And also check with your grandparents or your parents, what have they taught you about what this particular plant is good for, or whatever. And she did this incredible workshop of these children telling us adults on a walk in this farm about this you can eat and this you can't, that's poisonous, that's, we had also the Morlam singers coming in, and we had these very, very elderly women who performed this oral poetry. I forget what it's called in the Thai term. Sorry, I would have to go back and look. But it's a kind of an art form that's dying out. And, they both kind of, this is how news was relayed in the past, or so society was informed about what's going on within the society via this paya. Yeah, thank you, Paptan. And you know, they would recite they would recite verses about the realities, the current realities, whether it was a social, political, and Molam as well, you know, sings
Morlam.
about, yeah. So Molam is very much alive, but Paya is, you know, very much, I think there are probably these elderly women who come and do it. And so it was also putting them together with the kind of younger group of artists who were present there. Recently, at a conversation I had when we were setting up the digital courtyard, one of the things that came up was, and this was from Durban, from Bild Wexel Feminist Archive, was, you know, how further isolating this whole thing is for the women artists in their senior years, the whole lockdown and the unable, well, as in the, you know, they might have been invited for an exhibition or a talk, or had the possibility of going into galleries or museums or meeting up with friends, and actually also showing their work and, you know, getting involved in this conversation. It's suddenly all taken away, and not all of them are completely happy. I know quite a few of people myself are not happy in working with the digital media, you know. And so one of the questions is that how to bring them into conversation as well. So, okay, I can't remember what the next thing was. Sorry, can you repeat it, Sarah, or does that answer your question?
I'm not, it doesn't mention here who asked the question, but there's an observation here sent in our Zoom chat, which states, I don't know, from this new decentralized format for Womanifesto encourages taking risks in collaboration and maybe pushes one to accept uncertainty and living with the new unknown of this pandemic time.
Yeah, that's Christina.
Okay.
So, manifestation.
Yeah. Well, yeah, thank you, Christina. I think this is definitely at the top of our minds, and also at the top of my mind in a way, was that, and this was, interestingly, it was something we had talked about at the very first Womanifesto, where both Nitya and I felt very strongly that any of the artists who were involved in that first meeting and the second meeting of Womanifesto, if they had an idea for a project and they would like to do it and they would like to use the umbrella of Womanifesto or to work under that umbrella, that wherever it was in their own environment, they should do it. And it, you know, it didn't happen then, but now it's kind of happening, because already there's a project suggested by Niloufar Akhmut, a children's book project, which plugs into the, you might have heard of the Camel Library in Pakistan, set up by this NGO, these two women who Niloufar knows. And basically it's a library that is contained on the back of a camel. And the camel visits all the remote places, schools in remote areas, communities in remote areas, taking once a week, taking books in and out. And so Niloufar set up a project asking for contributions of you to make a children's book, or you to work with an organization or a group of artists, or collaborate with other children to make up a children's book that will be printed by her, by Niloufar. A few copies, which will go into these little backpacks on camels, who will then go off into these various remote areas taking the library to the children. So that's one thing that's happening. But from Berlin, Carla Sachse and Anne Noel, who was part of the Gatherings project. Anne is a very well-known Fluxus artist. And both are now in their early 70s, are setting up are wanting to set up a project next year. So they are kind of coming up with an idea. We start this digital courtyard as a way to meet and to add even more into the topic pool. And should somebody come up and say, well, hey, I have this idea of doing this, you can do it. So that's what decentralizing really has immediately, even as we are kind of still working on the Gatherings, second phase of the Gatherings project. It's already organically, I feel, again, started to spread out. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Well, it's like this. I think it's 4 o'clock, and I think Sarah has to go because she's in another. She'll go to her class. But Sharina, can you stay? Are you free beyond 4?
Yes,
Just a few minutes. Okay. So there's still one question at Slido, but I would just like to intervene and say that there are artists here. Pop to 1 for 1, and Imelda Kahipe Andaya, who was wondering at some point why the Philippines is not in the list of Womanifesto participants. I don't know what's going on. And Yanni is here as well. So maybe we could also ask them to comment or ask questions, no? And if there's still one more question, probably Sarah, you can just transfer that to the chat box so that we will also address them at some point. And the rest, if you have classes and somewhere else to go, it's fine. The session is actually up to 4, but the conversation is getting interesting. So we do not want to break it. We don't want to break that momentum. So, sige. What's the other question, Sarah?
So our next question is from Roy, who is also our classmate. And it is, based on experience, what's your advice to new traditional artists in this generation? And how can they find their place financially and geographically?
Oh, I'm still learning myself. No, I'm not best placed to, I don't know. I just think it's in the doing, and it's in, I do think that it's in widening one's horizons in terms of, I don't know, meeting, talking, in terms of, I am, if you're talking about kind of this way of doing things, not really very much into conversations with galleries and with structures, I'm sorry to say, I'm not very good with any of that. I really think it's in our own autonomy as artists how to push that and how to hang on to that and how to project that in many ways. And there will be others, I'm sure, who think in a like-minded way and who to find those spaces, that can make things possible, or make the spaces yourself in whatever way it's you can. Because we worked on Womanifesto where we've literally had barest amount of money, and we've ended up putting in quite a lot from our own pockets as well. you know, and we continue to do that with the website, and you know, we get a bit of money now and we can put it towards maintaining the website. That's fine. But when you don't have it, you somehow, you know, you're looking at also things quite economically in many ways, you know. So you're not looking at big sort of events and big budget, big whatever, you know. You're looking at what is possible to do. And it's not easy, of course, it's not easy. It's easy to say, but it's not easy to do. But yeah, you can find a way. That's all I have to say. I mean, that's my own, that's my experience anyway. And along the way, yes, we've been lucky that we've got funded every now and then, but we've also had lean periods where, but we kind of always thought we would still keep going. Yeah.
Okay.
May I just read the last question?
Oh, well, Sharina, there is a comment here from Yani. She has to go to another webinar soon. Thank you, Yani, for coming. Kind of miss you guys. But I want to bring up an important and urgent issue, environment that is under threat of destruction. And the pandemic is actually a confirmation of that problem, right? I think the role of women today is becoming very important. Please tell me, what do you think about this? So the ecological issue, which is actually a very important issue. Our world is perishing, so to speak, to put it in apocalyptic ways, in apocalyptic terms. Though. So, and then Yani was talking about the important role we women have at this point. No? So I'm coming out with the elephant in the room. Womanifesto is a women's project. So that makes it special, makes it special because of our special characteristics. We have very many tasks. We're multitasking. We are at home in going with the flow and taking risks. We are at home in liminal spaces, and we are not afraid to explore many other possibilities and go there. But what do you think of this comment from Yani? Yani, if you're there, you could also talk. Nawala na yan.
Yep, I'm here still. Hello.
There you are.
Yes.
So who's going to go first? Not me. I've been talking a lot.
Yeah. Okay.
Thanks,
So maybe my students, particularly, if I may speak for them, would also like to hear from you, from Imelda, Sana, and Yani, and Paptawan, who are here.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah, I mean, well, I try to point out, right, what I think is very urgent kind of problem at the moment, as we have to deal with this pandemic and we don't know when it's going to be ended, right? But somehow it has to do with the problem of destruction of environment. And this is something, you know, now people from all over the world can experience it, yeah? And yeah, we have to do something about it, because, yeah, I don't think we can live forever with this virus, and then also with this climate change. We have to do something about it, right? And I think women has a role to play, because this system that has been running for, I don't know how many decades, ages now, under the system of capitalism, which I see it as something actually very masculine, very patriarchal kind of, system, and it has to be balanced. Otherwise, it will, go into this terrible kind of situation, and our coming generation is under threat. I mean, our children, yeah? And we need to do something about it, and maybe collaborate with all these young people, younger generation. Yeah. Okay. So I've been trying to do this kind of work actually since say 2000, early 2000 actually. And yeah, it's not an easy kind of work to do, but somehow there are more and more young people interested. For example, recently I had this work, and it's supported by Nanyang Technology University on one kind of art event. But this is the work with the community in Singapore, and there were young people here who has this awareness, and they want to do something about it, and they want to collaborate with young people that I have been working with in Indonesia. So this is a good thing. But of course, now with this kind of situation where people still having to be careful with the virus, so we do it so far mostly online, but the plan for the future is to really doing something together. So maybe I would like to invite also our friends, women artists, women activist friends, to also connect each other and dealing with this issue.
Yes. Yeah. Thank you, Yanni. Send me the details, and then I will share it with the class, because they might want to collaborate with other Indonesian art, other young people in Indonesia, right?
Great.
Right. Yeah. Thank you, Yanni.
Welcome.
May I? Okay. And to formally conclude our event, we hope to ask everyone, particularly Varsha and Professor Datuin, to turn on their cameras. Well, this is in the script. So we can proceed with the awarding of certificates. Okay. On behalf of the University of the Philippines Diliman, Department of Art Studies, we award the Certificate of Appreciation to Varsha Nair for sharing her valuable knowledge as our guest speaker on the Womanifesto, linking communities, held this 20th May 2021 via Zoom. Okay.
You'll have to frame and send it to me.
I will, I promise that, via DHL. I'm kidding. I will do that. Okay.
Thank you so much. No, thank you.
Thank you.
On behalf of our class for Art Studies 143.
Sharina, before you formally close it, of course we can huddle. Those who wish to go may go, but I think we have still, if you're still okay, Yanni and Imelda and Poptawan and all the rest, we could have sort of, a huddle later on. You can stay, we can stay and chat and have some version of your digital courtyard thing, Varsha, even if only for a short while, because we know that you might be tired already. Okay, sige. So, sorry.
I have another 5 minutes. Then I also will need to go. So
okay,
yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sige.
I just want to say, I think Christina already wrote in the chat that Yanni, what Yanni brought up, that, Kasibulan and Womanifesto have both, as women's collectives, have sort of been doing work with communities, and it is, of course, very much based on considerations of what our environments mean to us, and awareness of all of that. A lot of workshops that we did on the farm were related with that as well. So yeah, I just wanted to add that. And yeah, so I also want to say that I seriously don't know why we never had an artist from the Philippines in
There you go, Imelda.
shall I say chapter 1 of Womanifesto, though I think we might have in the No Man's Land project. Judy might have been
Yes,
in it.
I know.
Yeah.
It's what
But-
I know. Judy was with you.
Yeah, but what I would really, really like in chapter 2 is a definite presence in our digital courtyard.
There you go.
And I would like to start off with inviting you, Imelda. If we can do it, I would just have to look at how maybe trying to keep the group to about 10. First one is on at the end of this month, but the next one for sure at the end of June. So kindly share your email with me, or I can share it via May. May you can please do a joint email with us.
I could connect you through Messenger.
Yeah,
Also.
because I think I think that there are things we can definitely cook together, and it would be so fantastic to think of things that can run simultaneously, say in a backyard in Baroda, in a backyard in Manila, and in Thailand, in Sydney. So it would be really fantastic.
Yeah, that would be great.
Yeah, so I will definitely be in touch about that and send you the whole idea of it, and we'll see where it leads. Yeah, yeah. It's informal, It's really getting to know each other.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's
okay,
nice.
so I've cleared that one. Phew. But it is something that's come up, because we've had artists from Vietnam. We've had artists from Singapore. Of course, we didn't have anybody from Myanmar and Laos, but Myanmar was so closed all the way up into 2006-07, and in fact, Nitya and I had planned a project in the women's prison in the border area where she was living, Kanthara Lak, and this women's prison had women prisoners from both Laos and Cambodia and Thailand, of course, and from across the borders. And this was a kind of project where we thought that, because they all speak a dialect, and even Tuk barely would understand the dialect. So, we would have to have an interpreter. But then there was, the permissions were not given to interact with the prisoners. Yeah.
Okay.
But yeah. Okay. So.
Yeah.
Thought opportunity.
Yeah, right. Okay, go ahead, Sharina.
Wants to be included in the photo, you may open up your cameras, and Sarah will be providing us with a photo opportunity.
Hang on.
Okay.
All right. Might want to put some lipstick on. Like what you did, you naughty you. That's what you did when we had this round table in Sydney. Anyway.
Oh yeah, right. I know. I don't even know where my lipsticks are anymore. Isn't that terrible? Imelda looks immaculate. That's wonderful.
Thank you. I can't see myself.
Sige. Stop share na kayo. And then let's go for the photo op.
You ready?
Yeah, okay, there you go. Hang on. I'll close my chat box. Hey, yeah.
On your cue, Sarah. Okay. 1, 2, 3. Okay. Just one.
Yeah, send me one.
Another one. Okay, another one. Okay. In 3, 2, 1. Smile. Okay. Thank you so much. And on behalf of our class for Art Studies 143, we would like to thank you again, Varsha, for sharing your time with us. Thank you also to our classmates and guests who have taken their time out of the day to attend this program. And this concludes our fourth guest lecture series, one of the happiest one. We hope you have learned and enjoyed it. You may wish to mark your calendars for the upcoming events in the series. On May 25, that's for Gantala Press, Fekura, and May 27, Rocky Kahigan. We hope to see you soon again. And please be sure to stand by in your emails as we will be sending out our feedback forms and certificates through the address you've indicated when signing up for this event. We highly encourage you to answer, as this will also serve to validate your attendance for students and eligibility to receive certificates for our guests. Once again, this is your host, Sharina Maymay. Thank you so much for attending your event with my co-host and moderator, Sarah. We hope that you have a great day. Have a great day, everyone. Goodbye.
Thank you. Thank you for all your work, Sharina.
Thank you, Varsha.
Thanks, May. Lovely seeing you all. Haptawan, Sharina, Imelda, great.
Thank you. Thank you, May.
I will connect you immediately. I'll
Thank
connect. Yeah, connecting, linking communities.
Yeah, there will be the link.